Today we're going to discuss business planning basics. There's a number of things that we need to discuss about business planning. Some of the things that compile it are planning, development, goals, strategy, and ideas. Every viable organization is built on a sound business model, whether or not its founders or its managers conceive of what they do in those terms. So a business model refers to the set of interdependent activities that an organization performs, its key internal and relational resources and key processes. And it also refers to the pursuit of delivering superior customer value and appropriating that value. There's various business models that are out there, and according to Yoon and Deacon, there's three. The first one is the production model. So if we look at Microsoft, Microsoft hosts the service, but has numerous content partners, including Netflix, Hulu, ESPN, YouTube, and Amazon Prime. In the second example, the distribution model, this is when the service is sold through gift cards at retail outlets or email offers, and also promotions that appear on screen when users turn on their consoles. The third one is the profit model. Using Microsoft again as an example, Microsoft profits from the sale of consoles and subscriptions and from products and upgrades sold through the Xbox Live Marketplace, or also maybe through their affiliate programs. This is a very well-used book, well-known book, called Business Model Generation. And in this Business Model Generation, Osterwalder and Pinier share the business model canvas, which we'll talk about in a sec. But this business model generation describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. They later put out a book that focused on value creation and value model as well, which is quite good. Today we're just going to focus on the business model. So the business model canvas that they've come up with identifies these various components. So we have the key partners, which focuses on who are you working with. This can include your suppliers. What key activities are you going to do that support the value propositions? What are the key resources that your value proposition requires? What are your value propositions? What do you actually deliver to the customer? And when you deliver it, do they see that as a value? And value is a very subjective thing for each person. What I might see as value might be totally different than what you see as value. What are the customer relationships? What type of relationship do you need to have with each customer? Going back to who's your target market. What channels do your customer segments need? And then said your customer segments, how are you creating value for them? Who are your customer segments? And obviously all that needs to be supported by a cost structure, which you can see down the lower left corner, as well as the revenue streams. What are the various ways that revenue will come into your business so that you can continue to support all these other activities that are part of that? So let's put this into a case example. Well, we'll look at the questions first within each one. So if we look at our customer segments over to the right, the questions that we're going to ask here are, for whom are we creating value? Who are our most important customers? What are the customer archetypes? Meaning, what do they look like? Right? What do they resemble? And this becomes quite challenging for many organizations because they may make their segments too broad. And if you have a challenge trying to identify your target market, I did a webinar on finding your target market probably about a week or so, and you could go onto the YouTube channel and find that one. And the activities in there will assist you in identifying who your target market is. The customer relationships, the questions to ask here are, how do we get, keep, and grow customers? Which customer relationships have we already established? And how are they integrated with the rest of our business model? How costly are they? You know, some relationships can be quite costly. There's very little return on investment. Think about your personal relationships. That doesn't necessarily have a dollar amount attached to them. But if you think maybe some friends that you do love them, you like being around them, but when you leave them, you just feel that, you know, so much energy was expended. Then there's other people that you just hang out, and when you leave them, no energy's expended, or you walk away and you still feel really good about yourself. It's the same thing when we're talking about customer relationships in business. With our channels, the questions here to ask: through which channels do our customer segments want to be reached? How do other companies reach them now? Which ones work best? Which ones are most cost efficient? And how are we integrating these channels with customer routines, how they regularly interact with us? Then we look at the value propositions. What value do we deliver to the customer? And as I said, value is a very, very interesting term that you cannot just scan over. What you think is value may be totally different than what your customer thinks is value. Which one of our customers' problems are we helping to solve? Remember, in business, we really want to become problem solvers, which means that we have to identify what problems are our customers having. What bundles of products and services are we offering to each segment? Which customer needs are we satisfying? What is the minimal viable product? That minimal viable product is what we can deliver to our customers in its, I'll say smallest form, but in the least form, without all the bells and whistles, that they can use it, because that becomes our testing ground to make sure that we're going in the right direction to be able to deliver that value to our customer. Then we look at the key activities. So the questions here: what key activities do our value propositions require? What are our distribution channels? Our customer relationships? What are our revenue streams? The next one, key resources. So what key resources do our value propositions require? What's our distribution channels, our customer relationships, our revenue streams? And then our partners. Who are our key partners? Who are our key suppliers? Which key resources are we acquiring from our partners? Which key activities do our partners perform? And at the bottom, our cost structure. What are the most important costs inherent to our business model? Meaning, what do we really have to pay for to make sure our business is going? And which of those key resources are the most expensive? Which of those key activities are most expensive? And then lastly, our revenue streams. For what value are our customers really willing to pay? Again, it goes back to identifying what is that value. What do they think is value? What do they see as value? For what do they currently pay? What is the revenue model? And what are the pricing tactics? So those are questions to answer when you're putting together your business model canvas. So let's look at it from a business point of view. So this is designed for a company called Postgeist. So just looking through, if we look at the customer segments, is answering those questions. We have the collector, the person who is building a legacy, and then the heirs, the people who inherit the legacy. The customer relationships rely on trust, transparency, safety, creating meaning. The channels focus on web sales, direct channel, and then also reach through channel phases that come through these other channels. The value propositions control about what data the collector passes on. Data storage, where the space where all personal digital data can live. The accessibility, that even over a long period of time, the data is accessible on as many devices as possible. With key resources, we look at the online storage servers and the security system, and the key activities. That website is the main platform. You're working in web standards, and then also the platform management service provisioning and platform promotion. The key partners in this business are social networks and location-based networks. The cost structure is looking to be value-driven. And then lastly, in this example, the revenue streams are monthly fee for online storage, and then materializing legacy to pass on the legacy, which means in this case, they may develop a book, a letter, an app, etc. So here's another example of World Cup. So the World Cup, obviously, big soccer tournament. So the customer segments, you can see over here we have visitors who are local and visitors who are global. The TV viewers, they're also global. The soccer teams and the advertisers. The customer relationships are all about we love soccer, so we're going to have soccer enthusiasts. They want to create that relationship. The channels, mainly through TV and also FIFA.com, which is the organizing body. The offer, right? The soccer, the live in stadium, soccer live on TV, the merchandise, the ticket fund, and the music. So if you see where offer is, if we go back to the previous slide, that's your value propositions. Our key activities, organization and safety, and ticket sales, and the resources that we need to help those activities. Obviously, we need a stadium, we need the soccer players, and we need good branding. The key partners in this activity are FIFA, as well as the advertisers, in this case in 2010, Sony, Visa, Adidas, Kia, Coca-Cola, and Hyundai. When we look at the cost structure, things that we're going to be spending money on, we have to spend money on safety, the infrastructure, and also the people. And then mainly our revenue streams are going to be through ticket sales, video rights, and merchandise. So this gives you a practical example, just say, of an event, a massive event. It doesn't have to be arduous. It can just be having this kind of canvas and putting Post-it notes up there to get an idea of who are the key players and the key activities and key resources and relationships and segments and the revenue streams that you need to make this business or this event come to fruition. You can find out more about the business model canvas through the book in the previous slide. It's a really, really good book and breaks it down into detail that you can use for your own business. So once we have that business model, right, we have all these components filled out, or at least on the way to be filled out, we can then start to formulate the business plan. So the business plan is a formal statement describing why, when, and how the business developer intends to implement a strategic initiative or growth opportunity. There's two schools of thought with regards to business planning. Some people I know that just say you have to have a business plan. It's the only way to move forward. It's the only way to make things happen. I know other people that have started their business and have done quite well just putting on a napkin. Many times you do need a business plan if you're going to raise money. Okay? I wrote a business plan for the Wise Academy many years ago. It won an award. It was interesting because I asked the panel what made it a successful business plan, because there were many more businesses that were further ahead in their development and much more profitable. And they came back and they said, you really understood your market research. So what that told me, that market research is very, very important. I've always been a big advocate of it, as well as really understanding your target market. So I'm not going to say a business plan is not worth it. I think it is. It helps give you direction, and especially if you are going to look for a capital raise, it is imperative to have that written down so you can show your investors where you would like to go. So the functions of a business plan: to clarify your business ideas and establish the who, what, when, where, and how of those ideas. I actually find sometimes when there's a lot of competitions out there, like business plan competitions, and they'll set templates. And even if you don't want to submit for whatever reason, it's good to go through the process because it helps you to crystallize what you're trying to do with your business. And as I said earlier, the other reason, the other function of a business plan is to convey to prospective financiers, investors, and suppliers the worthiness of your business ideas. These investors get shown many ideas and businesses, sometimes up to 200-300 a year, sometimes 1,000 a year. I know a few people have looked at over 1,000 business ideas throughout the year. So they need to actually see where the entrepreneur wants to go with their business. We can't not discuss business plans without identifying goals and objectives. This is almost in every presentation when it comes to business planning, is to have SMART objectives, being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. What this does, it creates benchmarks for the organization to see how they're going. We won't talk about key performance indicators or anything like that in this session, but just so that you understand the terminology. Goals are the overarching, and then objectives, and just remember, SMART objectives is a very good acronym. So these can also take into account the customer needs, the marketing projections, maybe family and community benefits, financial projections, any lifestyle issues that you want to include, the market focus of the business, the proposed size and scale of the business, and any other social responsibility or corporate social responsibility that you want to have the company be known for. So a very simple, and I like to say a very practical business plan comes down to a few questions. First off, where am I now? Where are you right now in your business? Are you at the beginning, the middle, the end? If you're at the end, you probably don't need a business plan. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 3 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years? What's that vision? You may not know how you're going to get there. That doesn't matter, but where do you want to be? How do I get there? Right? The road that you pave, or the road that you think you want to pave to get there, may not be the one that you're going on. Trust me, I've done that. Right? I thought I was going to take one path to get my business to a certain level, and how I got there was a totally different path. Right? But you need to have some idea of how you would like to get there. You never know who you're going to meet along the way that may assist you to take you a different way to still get to your final destination. Who do I need to help me get there? Who's on my team? This is so important, right? Don't be a lone ranger. And it's really important to find the right team members. It's not easy to find that team. You may have to search places where you didn't think you needed to search to, right? And that's also looking at your networks and using those networks. Who do you want to share the success with when you get there? Right? I like to say, who do you want to party with at the end? Right? Who do you want to take on that trip and say thank you to for all those people that have helped you along the way? We usually like to party with people that we like, which comes back to the team. I'm not saying to hire all your friends, because sometimes they may be the worst team members, right? But who do you want to share the success? There may be some people on the team that just come in at the beginning, but they're not necessarily at the end. They're still important. They were there at the founding phase of it, help setting that foundation, keeping it stable. Invite them back so that they can share in the success, right? All part of the journey. What's in a business plan? Like, there's many different variations of business plan. I personally don't think there's a right or wrong. It also goes back to, why are you writing a business plan? As I said, if you put a business plan in for a competition, they will tell you exactly what you need to have in the business plan most times, right? If it's for an investor, you can always go to the investor or to the angel group to find out what do they need in order to make a decision on whether the company is a good investment or not. So there are some of the common things that you'll find in a business plan. Obviously, the description, the industry dynamics, going back to that market research, customer analysis, competitor analysis. You can see much of it is looking at that market research. What's your strategy for gaining competitive advantage? You know, what is your unique selling point, your unique selling proposition? A marketing and sales plan that can include your offline and offline, your digital strategy. If you have any manufacturing, how does that include? Where are you going to do the manufacturing? How are you going to safeguard that? What are the risks? The product development, the management team, very, very important. And you may not have a big management team. Maybe it's the two co-founders and maybe a tech person. Get an advisory team, sort of not so much a board, but just an advisory committee. And that can also be very useful. I use that in a few of my companies, that it might have just been me and one other person, or even just myself. But because I showed that I had an advisory team, that they were assisting me in the strategic direction, that increased the credibility of the company. The business design, the 3 to 5 year financial projection. Be careful to project too far ahead, especially if you are in a tech environment, because technology is just happening so quickly nowadays. How are you going to fund it? Have you tapped into any kind of government funding, friends and family? How have you used those funds? Have you used it wisely, strategically? Have you leveraged off of time, off of resources, including people? What are some of the keys that you need to be successful, and what are the critical risks? And I think it is important to identify what are the risks that is happening in your industry. What are some milestones in the schedule to achieve those milestones? And then in a business plan, if you are giving to somebody, any appendix of supporting materials that you may need. Simpler business plan format, executive summary, a management team, what's your business structure and any legal requirements that you might need if you're in an industry that's very compliance driven. It might be health, financial services, education. Many industries do have some level of compliance that they need to meet. What's your marketing plan, your operations plan, your financial plan? It's always good to have either a CTO, if you cannot, a CFO, a chief financial officer. If you can't have one of those on your team, there are a number of CFO companies out there that can be part of your team, or you can just look at your accountant, and your accountant can be your interim CFO as well. And then an action plan of how you're going to deploy or execute this plan so you can actually start making some money. Thank you very much for your attention. I welcome any questions and comments. For any course information on small business, just contact the WISE Academy at wiseacademy.edu.au.